Right, we are delighted to be joined now by Ray Wilson, who was the former frontman of Genesis and Stiltskin and has a new album out called Makes Me Think of Home. It's out on the 7th of October. Ray Wilson, how are you?
I'm good, I'm very well.
Brilliant. So, I want to ask you first, where did the music all start? How did you get into this particular industry?
You mean commercially or just as a musician in general?
As a musician in general.
Well, I had a very good school. I went to a grammar school in Dumfries. I know that's a political hot potato at the moment, but I went to a grammar school in Dumfries, and where I was born, and it had a very good music department. It wasn't only violins and cellos and classical instruments, but there was also synthesizers, electric guitars, drums, and so on. So subsequently, there were a lot of bands evolved in the school, different types of bands, and this was in the early to mid-'80s, so there was, I guess there was punk, metal, new romantic, and so on, and so I was surrounded by music, basically, and a friend of mine who played piano in a more classical fashion asked if I would like to do a concert with him, because I sang in the school choir, and he said, "Would you like to do a concert with me?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, that should be fun." And we did a concert in the school with other bands. These concerts happen 3 times a year, and I got up there and sang in front of 500 or 600 children and saw the light. That was it for me.
And who were sort of the key influences who made you want to pursue that further as a career?
Well, I think it was, the main influence was just the fact that when I opened my mouth, I could sing. That was the most important factor. But from a musical point of view, at that time I was listening to, I guess my main inspiration was David Bowie, music from the 70s more than the 80s, to be honest. And I was a big fan of him, so I guess it would be a combination of just the fact that I was naturally able to sing and that I loved music in general, but Bowie was my main influence.
Right, and we understand now that you're not living in the UK at the minute, are you? You've ended up in Poland. Tell us how you got there.
Yeah, I've been living here for 8 years. My girlfriend is a Polish girl. She's a dancer, and I was performing here. I was touring, basically, and I met her, actually not at the concert, but later in a different place. And I fell in love and sold the house, sold the car, and left and came here. It was as simple as that. And I lived in Edinburgh at the time. I'd lived there for 20 years. And I just made the leap, and I went where my heart was, and I'm still here 8 years later, and it's been a really good thing for me. I really enjoy living here, and most of the concerts I play, I do about 100 or 120 shows a year, and most of the concerts I play are on the continent. Not all of them, but most of them. So actually, geographically, it makes a lot of sense for me anyway, because I'm pretty much in the center of continental Europe here, where I am. So it's actually quite a good position to be in.
Have you got any desire to, perhaps return to the UK, and, do you miss it, or touring there again?
I have my moments. I think if there's one thing I miss is the humour, I miss the humour of the Scots in particular, and of course many of the English people as well. There's a lot of great humour in England. But I miss the humour. Obviously, the main language here is Polish, and then English after that, and after that German. And I understand some German, so it's not too bad. But I sometimes miss that aspect of it, but I have to say that I spent 39, 40 years living in the UK and had a great time, but I've been here for 8 years, and I'm happier now than I ever was then. So I don't know if that's age, or if it's just the place, or if it's just the fact that I'm happy in my relationship and my life. So I don't know is the answer. I still have a house in the UK, a small apartment I still have. My mum and dad still live there. My brother lives there, but he works with me, so he travels back and forward pretty much every weekend. In terms of playing in the UK, the last concert I did was the Albert Hall with Steve Hackett, which was nice to do, and we played in Glasgow as well. which was equally nice place to play. So yes, I do miss it a little, but I did it a lot in my life. It's not as if it's something that I haven't done. I've played many hundreds of concerts in the UK over the years, so it's not leaving a big gap in my life or anything like that, not at all.
So you've got this new chapter of your life where you're living in Poland now, and you've released this album, Makes Me Think of Home, which is out, as I say, on the 7th of October. What inspired the music in this particular album? Because, I mean, it's not your first solo album, it's your 6th, I think. So you've written a lot of albums. There was another one out earlier this year. So what inspired the music in this particular album?
Well, I work with 2 or 3 guys, actually, who write with me, and I normally, in more recent times, the last 3 albums, I've really been more of a lyric and melody writer than I have music. In the past, I've basically done both, but on the last 2-3 albums, I kind of changed it. But I think the inspiration for this album, when I think about what I was writing about, it was very much thinking of home, because even there's a song called "They Never Should Have Sent You Roses," which is also about this kind of Scottish English issue, the referendum, all the politics that go on between the 2 countries. And my wife, when I lived in the UK, my wife was English as well. I also went to school in England for part of my life, so I wrote about that kind of Scottish English issue, if you like. And then, of course, Makes Me Think of Home is me actually thinking back to my life in Edinburgh and how I felt at that time. So, I wrote about that, and so I guess there's a lot of, if you like, reflection in this particular album. I've been thinking about the last years, mostly actually when I was living in the UK.
With the Scottish referendum issue, obviously you're living in Poland, so you weren't perhaps directly involved in the process. But what was it like being in Poland and seeing what was going on in that particular referendum?
Well, I think for me, and the same applied with the UK and Europe, that that vote as well. I think I kind of looked at it with dismay, because I kind of look at myself very much as European citizen, world citizen, to be honest with you, because I travel all the time as my living. So whenever I see this kind of this desire for countries to become isolated and smaller and inward-looking rather than outward-looking and stuff, I don't like that personally. It's not the type of person I am. I think we're stronger together, and especially as Europeans, I feel that very much so. So my feeling about the Scottish referendum was really no different about my feelings with the United Kingdom's decision within the European Union. I feel very much that Scotland should have remained part of the United Kingdom, and I feel that the United Kingdom should have remained part of the European Union. And when I see this kind of, there's this talk now of another Scottish referendum, because of the UK's decision to take itself out of the EU, and I just see the whole thing as going backwards. I don't see where the positives are here, and I think it's kind of like we've come too far to make such drastic changes, I think, for me it's quite frustrating. I think when we left the EU, something fell on its side inside me. I have to say, I was like, oh God, what's happened? And I know people have strong views on both ways, and that's fair enough. But for me personally, I thought it was a disaster, and I hope it doesn't turn out to be the disaster that I thought it might be. I think it might be.
Another key theme in the album, quite a somber point, is the track "The Next Life," which is about a challenge you had with a family member and alcoholism. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, I mean, I've been witness to that a few times in my life with family, not only one family member, with 3 family members, and also the guy I write with, one of the guys I write with, who I wrote that song with, ironically, had a stroke, which was basically down to smoking too much and drinking too much. And at the time, I was probably drinking too much myself, and it made me think about it. And the next life is basically saying, look, I've read the signs, I can smell the coffee here. I'm going to do something about it before I fall into the same trap as many people I know, and come to that many people that I don't know as well. You know, it happens on a regular basis, and yeah, so it's a song about an awareness that living a good life is much more precious than opening a bottle of vodka or whiskey or whatever happens to be your thing.
So you've said you're happy living in Poland, you've lived in the UK, but I wonder whether you should start living in Hollywood, because the acting in Amen to That is quite something. You played a number of different roles in that. Was that your first experience with acting?
Well, I did. When Genesis decided to stop, I did 1 year of acting lessons. It was only one time a week. It was nothing serious. But I did it because, you know, I'm a musician, and I thought, well, okay, let's try acting like so many musicians do. And I thought I'll try it because I felt it was something I could enjoy. But I never did anything beyond that. And I have to say, I enjoyed that video a lot. It took us about a week to film because of all the different locations. But I really enjoyed playing the roles. And when I looked at it, when it was edited together, and I looked at it, I thought, actually, I've done that quite well. I surprised myself. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of open to that. I've thought often about doing something, actually probably more theatrical than film-based, but I've often thought about that because I have a strong voice and a loud voice as well, so theatre could actually be quite interesting for me. Whether it will happen or not, I don't know. You know, from a concert point of view, I'm so busy that I don't have much time to think of anything, but you never know what the future holds, you know. I would certainly be interested in something if it came along.
So Amen to That, we obviously just spoke about the music video then, but the song itself, where does that come from? Because that's sort of the headline song of the album, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it was the first video we released. I think the whole idea with Amen to That was you know, you see so many people in business today who are kind of so almost trapped in business, you know, trapped within the whole world of money and the world of finance, you know, and having the nice car and the nice house and all the trappings that come with doing well, I guess, in society nowadays. And Amen to That is really a song that it's about the guy who says, okay, I've had enough of this life. I'm going to go back to basics. I'm going to do anything other than be in the world of finance in the city of London or Frankfurt or wherever. So it's a real kind of, you know, I've had enough. I want to go back to basics. And I enjoyed, in particular, I think I did a scene where I was a hippie with 2 wives and 2 or 3 children, I can't remember, which is, of course, only a dream, not a reality. But that was quite a nice moment, actually, filming that. And yeah, so it's basically about someone escaping the trappings of life in the city of London or some such place. Right.
And the album you had out earlier this year, Song for a Friend, this has obviously got fantastic reviews. I was reading Classic Rock and Classic Rock Society have written some fantastic stuff on it. How did you feel about the album itself? I think it came out in early June, didn't it?
Well, I mean, this was supposed to be a double album, was always the original idea, was to have one acoustic disc and one electric disc. And when we finished the acoustic one, Song for a Friend, when we finished that, and I listened to it, I thought this is so. For me, it was a really special album. It's just quite magical, you know, for anyone who likes that kind of minimalist acoustic type thing. And I was a bit concerned if I released it as a double album that it would just be kind of missed, you know, people wouldn't focus on it or whatever. And I felt it was too good for that, so I released the acoustic one first, and everybody told me not to do it the other way around, but I said, no, I'm going to release it first so that people actually focus on it first. And I think that some of the material on that album is really special, you know, and Song for a Friend, of course, I wrote for a friend who'd had a tragic death, and, you know, so it means something on a personal level as well. But yeah, I think, you know, the new album's great, and I think Makes Me Think of Home in particular. That song, I think, is a great song. It's a type of song I like to listen to as well. but the acoustic album, Song for a Friend, is I did something that I think will still be strong in 20 years. You know, I'll listen to it and go, wow, that's really nice. That's something quite special there.
And just finally, before we let you go, I noticed in 2013 that you toured again with Steve Hackett for Genesis Revisited 2. Do you think there's any chance that you'll do stuff with Stiltskin and Hackett again, perhaps?
Stiltskin and Hackett in the same band?
Maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed working with Steve very much, and you know, he's the guitarist I'm not, and I'm the singer that he's not. So it was quite a nice combination in that regard. He's a very nice guy. Obviously, we've got the Genesis connection, and him from the early years, and me from the late years. And yeah, it was very special, and a lot of his fans and my fans liked it very much. So I think, yes, it is entirely possible that we'll do something else in the future. With regard to the Stiltskin, the more of the rock side of my life, if you like, that's always possible as well. It hasn't gone from my soul, that kind of music. But I've always regarded myself first and foremost as a singer. You know, that's always been my main attribute, I feel, and I like to sing different styles, moods, so on. You know, so I never like to kind of get stuck in one genre with different types of albums. And I also work with a very famous classical musician here called Leszek Moczter, who worked with David Gilmour and people like that, and we did some jazz stuff together as well, you know. So I really do like to try different ideas, and I think it's highly possible I'll work with Steve again, and it's also highly possible that I'll do another rock album with Stiltskin.
Makes Me Think of Home is out on the 7th of October. Thanks for joining me, Ray Wilson.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Henry. Hi, my name is Ray Wilson, and you are listening to RaW.